Hi, welcome to NDE TV. I'm Peggy Robinson. Today's guest is Kymm Civette, and she's going to tell us about her amazing near-death experience. And that's the name of your book above you there, Heaven in
Yes,
My
it
Eyes.
is. Heaven in My
Awesome.
Eyes, a true story of heaven and healing. And thank you, Peggy. I'm so glad that you asked me on the show. And it's been like a little bit of back and forth, but here we are.
Yes.
We're here. So
So
it's
go right ahead, and I'm going to give you
okay.
the floor.
Okay, great. Yeah. So um, my near-death experience was a little bit on the different side. So I I was diagnosed with inoperable cancer. Um, I had it in 2008, had a surgery, got clear margins, and it was melanoma. It was metastasized. And then years later, it was metastasized and all that. And so I was going to the doctor at the time, and she had put me on a medicine that put me in the hospital. I was highly allergic to it. And the problem with this medicine is that, it's supposed to work very quickly, shrink the tumor, and then you're going to get a surgery and get that tumor out. If you don't get that tumor out, then that medicine is going to kill you because it's going to come back very, very strongly. So did the medicine, had allergic reaction to it, and I went to see the surgeon, and it did not shrink it enough. It was like involved in arteries, and he said, "I'm not putting you on the table." He had a lot of years of experience, and other surgeons that I went to wouldn't do it. So really, I went home with no answers. And I was just completely distraught. And so I
You
was
had little
crying.
kids at the time, right?
Yeah, I have young kids right now, 18 and 13. But at this time, this was like 4 or 5 years ago. So I was just completely distraught. So I went up, this is kind of odd, but I went up into my room so that I could cry. I didn't want them to hear me cry. We thought that there was going to be, options, and there just wasn't. So I was doing everything I could on the healthy side, as far as like, fasting, doing wheatgrass, like everything. And I was on a very strict regime at that time. So I was very clean. And I've always had the ability to connect intuitively with God. That's just been a thing since I was young. Being able to access the spirit realm, although I was really afraid of that. I didn't ask for it, and it just was like, you know, I didn't even know that that was my gift, right? So here I am in this state, and I'm really clean. And I'm meditating, I'm praying, I'm doing everything I can. So I went into my closet, my walk-in closet, which is kind of big, and I laid down on my side just to like cry. And I was just speaking and just saying, I guess at this point, God, if you're going to take me, I'm willing to go. Now, prior to this, I was not willing to go. I was like, there's no way I'm leaving my children. And I was still in that place, but it was like this point of complete surrender on a level that I've never reached before. So, this is like a long haul of cancer, but I had kind of isolated myself where I wasn't sharing it. I wasn't asking people to pray for me. I was, I had I'm in the entertainment industry, so I was in the public eye. I was afraid that if I, told anyone, that we would not get hired. So there was like this like isolation thing. And
You're a
so
singer, right?
I am a singer, yes. And my husband is a keyboardist, and we we went from, you know, duo on to like big orchestra and production shows and all this good things. So this is all we do. It's not like a
What
garage band.
amazing life, and to
Oh,
have that face in that. I
thank
mean,
you so much. Yes, we're really blessed to be together as long as it's going on 39 years. We met in high school,
oh,
and we just created music. We had regular jobs at one time when we were like 19, and we had to make that jump. Like, okay, we're going to do this now. We're going to do music. And it's been that way ever since. So we turned it into a business. And so during this collapse of my health, I was just like, I'm going to have positive thinking. I'm not going to share this with people because I don't want them to treat me differently. And I did have some experience with that, where when you have cancer, people look at you differently, like
you're not going to show up.
yeah. And so it changes, you know, everything changes, your friends, everything. So I was just, you know, nothing was wrong. I was doing this thing. So I grew up, I just want to preface this, that I grew up with no religion. Okay. So my mom, you know, and my dad and everybody in my family followed gurus in the 70s. That was the thing. They were burnt out on religion, burnt out on church. You know, Jesus was not a thing. You know, it just, all I had access to was like quantum physics, you know, and just like the light and just spirit. But in my early 20s, I had an open vision with Jesus. That's where it all started. I started having open visions with him. And without any foundation, like, okay, I can draw from this because I had biblical teachings, or, you know, somebody told me what Jesus is about, or nothing. And yet I had this, someone sent me, they wanted me to be saved, and they sent me a Bible. I never opened it. Okay. I was, and I just looked at it, and I was in a place of fear. And when that's when it happened, where I had like a 3D vision, where I saw this figure in a rocking chair rocking me, and I knew that it was him. Okay, so it was like a 3D thing where I was floating above, and I could see him. I could see him from my body, like I could see this arm like rocking me. I could see it across the room, although I was not looking across the room. It was like this bizarre 3D thing. And this is my early 20s, like I was maybe 22 or something like
See,
that.
this is why I love doing this, is because that right there, we get peeks into Jesus, into God, into heaven, into ease. But that's what I love right there, is the peeks into the personality.
Yes. So my message today, I hope that people take away, like, even if you've been hurt by a church and closed down, if you have spiritual gifts and they've closed you down, or maybe you just grew up a certain way, don't walk away from Jesus. You see what I mean? Don't walk away from him, because he's available. And he is, when I was raised up, when he was hugging me, I knew without a doubt that was Jesus. And it was a kind of love that is indescribable. I mean, I get emotional every time. It's indescribable. It's like everything we're looking for in life, in our parents, in our spouses, in our friends. And there's constant, obviously, disappointment in all of that, because we're human. But he is that source of unconditional love and forgiveness. And I knew that, and even those words pale, completely pale. I cannot describe to you in human terms the absolute love, the completeness of it. And so I did not share that with a lot of people, because I thought, maybe, was I crazy? That, you know, I'm having these visions. I didn't ask. I mean,
That's something people talk about.
Yeah, right. So I just didn't really share it. I think I shared it with my husband. I shared it with maybe my mom, and that was it. And now, shooting ahead, now I'm going kind of back and forth, but that was when I was 21. So now I'm, like 6 years ago. I'm 57 right now. So this is the second bout of cancer. It's obviously metastasized, as I said, and there's no hope, right? They can't do a surgery. I'm on this medicine that is basically going to kill me and going to it makes the cancer go away in 3 days, but then it makes it come all the way back to where it's like all over your body. So I go into my walk-in closet because I don't want my family to hear me crying. And at this point, I am surrendering to the Lord. I am surrendering completely. I'm like, okay, so there's no hope. There's no answers. And I'm sorry, I've been fighting for so long. I mean, if this is your will and you're going to take me, then I'm going to go. But I said, if I could ask one thing, that if it's allowable to allow me to live for my children, I would ask that. If there's any hope, if you can share that with me, if there's any source where, I can see another doctor or be healed of some kind, and I let it go. And when I said that, this level of surrender, I think that a life-threatening illness puts you in a state of surrender that no meditate, I was in a place that complete and full. There was really no option. So you're there. You have to accept your immortality, right? So as soon as I said that, Peggy, I shot out of my body. I was no longer aware. And this is what an open vision is. We have closed visions with our eyes closed. And, there's I'm clairvoyant. I'm a seer. I didn't always know that, but in the Christian faith, biblically supported, there's the seer gift and the prophesy gift. On the new age end, it's mediumship or psychicness, so there's that vocab, whatever works for you as a listener. I have this gift. And so I see instantaneous downloads of information that go into, it's lightning fast. I see it clairvoyantly, but it's also encoded with information of, a lot of information, but there's just no way. There's not I'm having a conversation. It's it's now. There's no delay time. Okay, this is happening. What do I think about this? It doesn't happen like that. It's immediate. It's all in the now.
Mhm.
It does not exist. God and the heavenly realm is not part of the space-time continuum. Yeah. So everything there, it's immediate knowledge. So I knew about this space, but not on this level. So I was on my side in the closet, but then I was completely unaware of where I was. I almost woke up in heaven. So there was this white mist all about me. And then you might think, oh, is she talking about a cloud? It was not a cloud. It was not earthly. It was a mist that was intelligent. And it was the extension and consciousness of Christ. Okay, so I woke up and I sat up and I saw off in the distance an outline of his white robe and just this white mist for eternity. I felt like I was not completely in heaven. I felt like I was waking up on the outskirts of heaven, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And he told me, not audibly, but I just knew that there was an invisible cross, and I was laying or sitting on the southwest portion of that cross. I couldn't see it with my spiritual physical eyes. I just knew it was there. And he said, do not cross these lines, otherwise you will be in heaven. So I was sitting there, and immediately there was a sound. And I want to say that it was a sort of, in Christian verbiage, it would be a praise, a constant and eternal praise. I've been asked, was it the sound Om? It was not Om. It was something that we can't recognize. It was like love encoded on this like continual sound that, or frequency. I felt like there were millions of angels. I felt that, but I did not see them. I just heard this sound that they were part of. And it was all for Jesus, all of it. And when I woke up, I immediately knew. I was like, how could I have forgotten about you? I don't even know how I could have forgotten that he is the sovereign king of the heavenly realm. He is. I was taught differently. I was taught that, God is just all light, it's the universe, and there may be other levels that I wasn't given access to right then, but as far as I knew, he is like the sovereign, I want to say king, but also that, I don't know if that offends somebody because it sounds too like evangelistic, but I don't know. There's not very many words that can describe that feeling.
Yeah. Well, I like my guests to just tell their truth and don't worry about anybody else's.
Okay. He was the sovereign king of heaven, and he does oversee earth. I knew it without a doubt. And the amount of love that I felt, I for some reason thought about, like I remembered a long time ago, like when I would be driving and I would see a car in front of me and there'd be like a bumper sticker that says, Jesus loves you. I'd be like, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's like you've merchandised it, and it's like, what does that really mean? And right there, I knew exactly what it meant. It sounds very dwarfed and very pale, but his love is so immense and so complete that you are just like, I was just sobbing, but not out of pain. It was just this like I just couldn't believe it. And I realized that every molecule that is not a molecule of this mist was an extension of him and his love. And it was conscious. It was like actually like that white mist was conscious of me and I of it. It wasn't just like a material thing like what we have on earth. It's very hard to explain. And I was then just shot down back into my body, and I started to cry. The pain, I was so dense. I felt gravity. I felt pain in my joints. I felt the sorrow of having cancer. I just kept saying, take me back. Take me back. I don't want to be here. And that is a very strange thing to say when I was asking to live for my children. So I feel that the message was, I am, and it's not your time, because I wasn't asked to cross these little, whatever they were, these lines. And I got to experience the immensity of what it's like to be in heaven, and even just on the outskirts. And so a few days later, actually it was the next day, a friend called that was a nurse, and that she worked at a hospital. And she said, I'm working on this patient. She just keeps talking about this doctor that is like the best in the nation, and oncologist, and he's got like global things he speaks. So I see that doctor, and he does have options for me. He does heal me with immunotherapies. And I often think, was I healed in heaven? Or, I feel like Jesus found that doctor. I mean, why would it be the next day? I've been talking to that friend forever. She was part of my whole cancer journey, but all of a sudden somebody came in and kept saying, I just, raving about this doctor.
What's immunotherapies?
Immunotherapies.
Okay.
With melanoma, there's no chemo, there's no radiation, because melanoma is in all of the cells. So you have to be healed systemically. They can't just like put the chemo in this area or that area. And this was fairly new and it was pretty radical. He was like more on the science, like a teacher at UCSD. And so it was kind of a big risk, to sign off. But here I am,
Right.
completely healed, where there were no options before. And so there's a little bit of a price with immunotherapies. It does give you an autoimmune, but I'm living for my children. And so anything compared to not being here,
Yeah.
a blessing and a gift. And it's nothing like having cancer with no answers. So it almost made me like, I wrote my book, Heaven in My Eyes, a true story of heaven and healing. You see that above. It includes those open visions with Jesus, but it also includes many other heavenly figures that I have come across. And in my sessions with my ministry, my healing sessions with my ministry, where I help a lot of people with, grief, with loved ones, communicating with whatever the Holy Spirit, whatever that field, that matrix. Some people call it just spirit. For me, it's the Holy Spirit. I'm in this little in-between space. Like I don't totally vibe, like I tried to go the evangelistic route and, I've been kind of shut down from a big church because they're like, okay, we don't do the prophecy thing. So, we don't know what to do with you. Even though my visions are with Jesus and that's where it started, they're afraid of that. So I'm not, I've kind of like walked away from that a little bit and I'm just doing my own studies on the seer gift and the prophecy gift. And on the other side, there's like, people are like, you're a medium, you're a psychic medium. And I am, but what I choose to receive, I don't channel. I don't feel like channeling it's not my calling because I feel like that might be the familiar spirit thing. I feel like I just pray. I pray over my client and then I'm just shown all kinds of, if it's about their, what the people that are coming to me from heaven are saying, what area of health they may have an issue, guidance about, romance. I mean, it sounds kind of like cliche, but that it does happen. But for me, it's that field of the Holy Spirit. So that's my story.
Have you thought about starting your own church? I mean, you got your music business.
That's really amazing that you said that, Peggy, because another gal that was very intuitive, she's from London, Danny, she has her own show. And about 20 years ago, she said, you are going to have your own church. And I was like, what? Like that was like not even on my radar, but I have been feeling because like there are people that I see that have never, they're like, oh, I just don't want to go to any church. I've been banned. I've been, they're lost. So they start getting into like anything that's on YouTube and it's like, not all of it is good.
Right.
Not all of it is good. You have to have discernment. And so that's what I'm studying right now is like, what is God telling you about what you're watching? I mean, just don't open yourself up to anything.
Right.
You have to really know that like, okay, this feels like, the highest of the high. And so I did a session last week with this person that had a health issue, and Jesus came to me for this person, and they don't have, they don't go to a church or anything like that. And I said, Jesus is showing me this message to you. And that's confidential, but it was very accurate. And then Jesus said, he knows me, but he doesn't call on me. And when I said that to this person, they started crying, and they said, I did have an experience when I was a child, but I just haven't like done that. And this person said, you are a bridge. You're a bridge for those of us. And I don't mean that like an ego way, but because I still don't really know what to do.
Right. I get it.
You know, some people are like, why don't you start up an app, and and I'll follow you, and you can do your meditations and da da da. But it's so it's like the tech thing is overwhelming. But I'm going to pray over what you said, because you're like the fourth person that has said that since I've been doing these little YouTube, not little, but these YouTube sharing of the story. A lot of people are coming out like, oh my gosh, this happened to me, and I had to walk away from this situation that was, harmful to them.
Well, your music would draw people in, and what you have to say would draw people in, and wherever it takes you.
Right. So like, I was thinking something like, integrating, sometimes I do like a Sunday, I have Angel Intuitive Ministry. But then when I looked up aim.com, like AOL owns that or something. So anyways, I keep Angel Intuitive Ministry. And I was doing like a Sunday message where, I sing an inspirational song, and then give a message, and then, do a meditation, help everybody get chilled out, and then give the message, and then say goodbye. But I've not done that on a physical level. I mean, maybe it just needs to be an online church.
Have you thought about singing Christian pop music?
Yes, you're the third person that has said that also. So
I can see you the next, what's her name? Lauren Diego.
I love her. I love her. Yes. I love her. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll send you some of those Christian songs. I have recorded her song, and just like songs that are inspirational, that align with the message, almost like I'm the worship section and the meditation section and the message section. But I'm starting to, the more I get into the Bible, and I'm studying that really like daily, it's starting to, like, I'm starting to get a little bit more, rather than just one-on-one prophetic information, I'm actually getting some worldly global information. Like 5 years before COVID, I had a dream about it. And then I just recently had a prophetic vision about AI. And I'm learning how, okay, you receive this vision. Is this from God, or is this from other, and how to discern that, and how to ask for confirmation again from God, so that there's consistency. Like, I don't just show you once, I show you twice, like maybe 3 other people come to you with the same kind of like similar thing that can confirm that message. So I have been thinking about starting up a prophetic seer channel, where maybe that's part of the Sunday message. I'm not sure. I would love to hear from people if anybody's interested in that, in following something like that. I think I just have to jump off and say, God is calling me to this. And it's just kind of, it's scary, because I don't fit in exactly anywhere, or at least it feels like that to me. It feels like I don't.
That's the way I was before I started my podcast 2 years ago.
Okay. So tell me.
One day I just got so frustrated with the NDE community. They're trying to push Christians out and all this stuff. Okay. And I was pushed out. I was in leadership and everything. And
what community was that? I'm sorry.
International Association for Near-Death Studies. They gave me ultimatum.
Oh, I see.
Either my Christian views or leadership. And of course I chose my Christian views. And so I left there. And so I lost my community, but my heart was just like, this isn't right. I felt like they stole NDEs from God, is what it felt like to me. And I wanted to give them back to their rightful owner. And one day my husband was at work, I was alone in the house, and I just got so mad. that I thought I'm gonna do a podcast, but I'm gonna first make a business out of it, a nonprofit. And
Yes.
so I sat down at my computer. I'm like, I don't know how to do this. I would cry. I would scream. Get
Yeah,
something,
that's where
like
I'm
calm
at. I'm just
down.
like, what do I do? Yeah.
Yeah, get some more caffeine. And by the end of the day, my nonprofit was a business
Up.
with the state of Ohio. And
Okay.
so I got that done. And so I'm not computer savvy whatsoever. And so
Okay.
then I was crying. I don't know how to start this Zoom. I don't know what to do. I don't,
Yeah.
and I did it. Now I look back at my first videos and I'm embarrassed. They're so bad.
Well, yeah, we
Well,
all
it's not
do that
better,
when we start.
It's just
Yeah.
like learn to ride a bike. I had nobody to teach me. I had no help. Still have no
No.
help for anybody to teach me. And when it took off, it took off. It's not as popular as some people, but it took
Yeah.
off. A lot of people's don't. So I love it. I'm really proud of it. And what you say about ask, I'm hearing over and over and over in my guests when they asked God for help, like something seemed so helpless, hopeless.
Yes.
And then
Just
they ask, and then like, there it is. It's like, oh, what
there.
do you do?
It
And
is
then
there.
leave it to God.
Right. And then he'll send you additional confirmation. That is something that I've been learning in the prophetic seer area. And I feel like there's a movement right now for people like you and I that are Christians, but then you don't quite fit in the, like, I don't know if some of these other shows are going to accept me because of the Christian view. It's like some really big YouTube interviewers that I've been on. They're like, yeah, I don't know how many views you're going to get because I've had to cut off the ones that see Jesus because I've got this whole realm of
Then
this
it's not where
vast.
you need to be.
Yeah. So what I was surprised at is I was like, okay, well, I'm probably going to get like 4 views, and then a lot of people are going to say bad things, but they didn't. There was a
Right.
huge
I
amount.
think I think they underestimate the Christian viewers.
Yes,
Mhm.
I do too. I think I just don't know if I go with like the mentoring of the evangelistic, seer prophet kind of thing, or
Yeah.
just start my own. I'm listening to what you're saying because I feel like I'm like you, where I know that I'm supposed to share the story, but not only that, prophesy and seer and more on that realm than, because I joined some mediumship group and I'm like, why is no one praying? Nobody's praying
Right.
over this
Yeah.
session.
I've had
So
guests say, Peggy, don't you meditate? And I said, no, I pray.
right. Well, it's the same in Hebrew. I've looked it up, ancient Hebrew. I think that's what Jesus did in the garden. To him, it's one and the same. In the Hebrew language, prayer and meditation are the same.
Yeah. But
But
when I'm
I
praying,
think he took
I'm
it.
speaking to God. When
Yes,
they're
yes, I see what you're
meditating, I
saying.
don't know who they're talking to. Their higher self. They're not going to help me out. It's not going to help me if I ask for anything. I
Right.
trust in God. It's wisdom, and wisdom comes. Like I pray at night when I go to bed, and then I wake up. And the answers are usually there.
Yes.
They'll come if you ask.
Maybe we could do a show. I have a Christian meditation that I posted and I'll send it to you. Maybe we could do something. Well, I call it meditation. We could call it Christian prayer, meditation, whatever, where I guide everybody um, into that deep meditation, into, ourselves. But I'm calling on the Lord for that. So to
Sure.
me, you know what I mean? Like I think there needs to be a bridging, a marriage, but we need to go to the right source,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
rather than there being these strict lines between, okay, well, we're going to call it this, and this is the this is the Christian verbiage, this is the New Age verbiage. That's why I like to talk about that on the shows because there's a lot of similarities, except that one group doesn't want to talk about Jesus, which that's where I feel I don't belong. And then on the evangelistic side, they're like, okay, well, that's kind of scary. We don't know about that. So we're not.
Yeah. That's where I was too when I started this. I didn't fit in anywhere. So I started my own
Okay.
thing.
You started your own thing.
Yeah. And I
So,
let people be their own person when they come on. They'll say, well, how about your audience? Do they like this or that? And I'm like, listen, you be you. You tell your truth. Don't try to fit in a box that I have. Everybody
right.
knows I'm Christian, and I'm
Okay.
not abandoned my Christian belief by having an atheist on that had an NDE, because in my mind, they don't realize they're talking about God. They're calling it source, or they're talking about
Right, right. That's the word. Yeah.
something, call what you
Well, you
want, but
know what's really
I'm
cool
seeing God
is
here moving your life.
what's really cool is when you watch an NDD where the person is Buddhist and then they see Jesus, or they're atheists and then they're like, whoa,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool when that's what I find is interesting about. I wasn't taught. I didn't have the foundation. I didn't have church schooling. I didn't have a church. I went to some guru satsangs, so why is it that I receive the Lord in my early 20s
Well,
without?
your story reminds me of I can't say her name right. Carmark, the girl that painted
Okay.
Jesus, Prince of
Oh,
Peace.
yes. Yeah. And her parents are
Yeah.
atheists, right?
Yes.
Yes.
And she started having visions when she was a little child of Jesus, even though they didn't allow any of that around their kids. They homeschooled, and she started
Yeah.
having visions. And her parents started realizing she's talking to God. She's talking to Jesus.
And
Had
isn't
to
that
accept it. And like you, they didn't want you near it, but yet you had that hunger. And it just, he just showed up for you.
that's what I believe, ask and you shall receive. That doesn't mean you ask for a Lamborghini and now you're mad at God because you didn't get the car. It's when you ask, when you seek. I mean like a child, wholeheartedly opening your
Mhm.
heart, on your hands and knees, tears in your eyes, because that I almost think that sometimes you have to come to that place of surrender to really access the seer gift.
And
That
I've
that
heard several guests say, God, if you're real, I need a sign. I need something, and something happens.
you got to have the faith before. I
So I
don't
don't
know.
know. It depends on God and it depends on Jesus. They know what sincere is. They know how bad somebody needs something.
Right,
I don't
right.
know. But I feel like each of these stories, we get a little glimpse. You see Jesus holding you like a child, and you felt his love. And, I've had 2 NDEs. I drowned when I was 5, had ectopic pregnancy at 25. And I was in heaven screaming because I wanted to come back and raise my kids. And so I,
We got that in common. We're like,
yeah. But the
yes.
time I was like the only one I heard of that threw a fit in heaven, told God off, because that's what I did.
Okay.
And I was told, I need to calm down, that the answer was no. Where everybody else you hear, they say, you got to go back, and they don't want to go back. And I was told the answer was no, that I, had to stay. So, but I threw a fit. I had kids to raise, and I didn't trust anybody on earth to take care of them. I grew up abused, and I
Yes.
didn't trust my husband. I had my first husband at the time. He's a family of drinkers and stuff. And I was like, I had to raise my kids.
Yes.
I
Yes.
felt like
Mom.
I fought God, like the song, I fought the law won. I felt like when I come back, I'm like, he just gave me my way, but I had a short amount of time to convince my doctor something's wrong, because he said you're fine. So, but anyway, but yeah, I'll send you
Wow.
a book, an
Yeah.
email, just so you can, I mean, you can read if you want, I don't care, but,
Yeah.
the,
No, I
the,
would love to.
the end of it, I wrote some poems, and I've always wanted somebody to look at it. Do you think that could be a song? Make it into a song, because there's like 3 or 4 poems
Yeah.
that I wrote. They just come to me
Yes.
one day, like out of the blue. I never wrote anything else since. And it's about my experiences. And I read
Okay.
them at the IANS conference in 2017. We quit our job. We was working the pipeline, making a ton of money. They had to shut the whole job down because my husband was steward, and we flew from Ohio to Colorado so I could read my poems.
Oh my gosh. We
Because
have
they
so
meant that
much.
much to me.
I used to write a lot of poetry and songs. And so there's so much in common. What's amazing is when I prayed over this podcast, I was told that like there's something there with you and I. Something there with you and I. So we don't know what that could be, you know? We'll have to explore that and pray over it, you
Yeah.
know?
And this isn't the first time. It's like getting to be a habit now that I just start listening to a guest, and I was like, have you thought of doing this or that? And they're like,
Right. So
well,
you
that never
are
stayed in my
you are
head.
actually prophesying. That's what you're doing. You're you're listening to the Lord, and then he puts something on your heart, and then you're saying it, and it's really powerful. I needed this message today just as much as maybe someone needed the story of my sharing my near death. And I don't even fit in the typical near death. Like, I fit into a shift of consciousness without actually physically dying. It's like, well, what's that called? It's like,
and some people won't have, they'll say that's not NDE, and we'll have people in their show. Or some people contact me and say, well, it's not really NDE. And I was like, well, come on and tell us about it. And it could be the most amazing story, because what I'm looking for is that glimpse into Jesus, God, heaven, where most people, oh, well, that's not an NDE. Well, to heck with you. I want to hear, because they had an encounter with Jesus.
Well, you have to kind of look at what is really, technically and clinically death. Is consciousness just allowed without the body to then elevate and receive, the heavenly information? Where I've always had, it seems, a pretty open, it sounds like it's somewhat rare as far as the people that I've talked to evangelistically or on the New Age, they just don't know what to do with it. They're either overwhelmed that I have these continued visions, open and closed, with Christ, or it's like, well, why don't I have that gift? I think we all have it. It just depends on how open, how childlike I think we are. And the Lord may speak to everybody watching here in a different way. You may be called to be a teacher. You may be called to, do something else. And it's not always the same gift. It's not like clairvoyancy is the top gift. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Dr. Jeffrey Long was on Jeff Mara about a week ago, and I've watched that so many times. I love it. I know I'll watch it a few more, will probably take notes. But Jeffrey Long said on there that his wife, Jody, from the Near Death Experience Research Foundation website, that she has coined the phrase fear near death experience. Fear death instead of near death. And I think that's maybe yours would qualify.
That's what Jeff was saying. He goes, I
Really?
think it's a fear death experience, because there was no hope. And so I went into the closet. Like, I'll have to research on that. He didn't put that like on the top of, how you have to come up with a little thing to get, there's 800,000 posts or something, and you got to come up with some
catchphrase,
kind of eye-catcher, right? Catchphrase. And I didn't know if he was going to put that on there. He didn't. He went with something else. But I've never heard of that except from him. So maybe it was that doctor you were saying. What's his name?
Dr. Jeffrey Long.
Dr. Jeffrey Long. Okay, I'll look into it.
Yeah, his wife, he said, made the phrase fear death experience. I guess she had been on his show too. I didn't go back and watch it. I meant to, but so maybe she talked about it on there, because I've had like near death experiences, but they were during this fear time too. When I was kidnapped and raped at 16, I had an experience. When my husband of 16 years asked for divorce, took the kids for the first visit, and I went alone in the bathroom, and I just started crying and sobbing alone, because I didn't ever let anybody see me cry. I just held it in, and I was sobbing and sobbing, and all of a sudden I heard, my child. And I got up, and here I had this red hot face crying for so long, and these tears now turned so cold on my hot face. And I got up and I was dancing around my room, my house, and I was just like, God said, my child. That's right. That's the only family I need. Because I was crying like, my parents didn't love me, my siblings didn't. Now my husband is 16 years. I learned he never loved me, blah, blah, blah. And then I heard my child so clearly in front of the mirror in the bathroom.
Yes.
And I could hear physically where it was. I heard it. Audible.
You're clairaudient.
And I was like,
that's the ability to hear.
Oh my God, that's right. That's the only family I need is God. Oh my God.
Wow.
And it just filled.
And you wrote that in your book?
Yeah.
Like,
book.
Okay. Wow. Amazing. Amazing. I got chills all over.
Just those 2 words. And then, it goes on to explain that my ex probably was going to kill me that night. Something else happened, and he called me when we got in. but I was on such a high from my child. I was dancing on the riverbank. He called me and asked me to go to this party down the riverbank, and there was a band, and I had never done this in my life. I danced by myself in a crowd of people, barefoot. My feet were so black for like weeks. If it would come out, because I danced. And nobody knew, and nobody needed to know. I wasn't going to ruin it by trying to tell anybody that, because I was on this high from God saying my child. I was celebrating.
Wow.
And so he kept trying to get me to go in the boat. And I know he was going to probably throw me in there and kill me. And I was like, I'm not going. I'm not going. And I was on this high. The old me before that probably would have tried harder to get him to, work things out.
Let me get on there. Let's work it out or something.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, what I felt when you said that your feet were dirty, I felt like Jesus was cleaning your feet. It didn't matter how black they got, that he's the one that cleans our feet.
And I could feel people in the corner of my eye staring at me. I didn't care. And I've just got a smidgen of American Indian in me. And I felt like it was a war dance, like I was just in the spirit, and the whole world just disappeared. So
wow. That's incredible. That's so incredible.
And so, but then, I've heard guests lately saying that they've heard a voice like that, and they're up dancing in their house. And I'm like, oh my gosh, so funny. You're like making stuff up.
So the message is to dance.
Yeah.
Accept him in your heart and dance. Yeah. I like that. I love it.
So yeah. If you think of something you want to do, come back on. And you said do something, sure. And I'll send you some stuff, and still get to know me a little bit. And so you can flip through to the back if you want with those poems. And I don't know, somebody once wanted to make one is called The Hill. Somebody was wanting to make a song out of it one time, and I backed out. I just didn't feel comfortable or something. But now I'm like, somebody please, like it's like it wasn't the right place, the time, right person or something. I didn't trust them either. So like send us this much money and we'll use this one, right? And like so, but yeah, I mean, you can have them if you want them, use them. I don't know.
Yeah, I'll listen, and I love to read your book, and I hope that maybe I can send you a copy of my book, and my book is available on Amazon for those of you that are watching. And I have my website, Angel Intuitive Ministry, if you'd like to book or schedule some healing session time. And just, I love the feedback. Like, do I start my own church? No.
Actually, a year ago, I bought property. I wanted to start a church. Like we're talking like totally non-traditional, like NDEs, or people telling their spiritual experiences and party, like, have a campfire and stuff. Dance and have fun and just, community. But I haven't done anything with it.
Well, we're pretty far away from each other. I'm in San Diego.
Yeah. This is property's in Marietta, Ohio. It's about 40 minutes from me. It's where I grew up. This little shack I grew up. Some woman, I asked her, would you sell that property next to my little shack? And she said, you know what? She said, I'd probably give that away. And it's got a house and like half acre. Wow. She says, you could have it for $1,000.
What a blessing.
So I bought it for $1,000, a house in it. It's got a garage on it. It's a half acre. It's right next door to my little shack. So I'm going to build a church here.
Yes. I'll come and speak.
And it's right beside the pond where I drowned when I was 5 years old, had my first NDE.
So yeah.
It just seems like it's meant to be there.
That's where the location is at for you, right?
Yeah.
Well, I'm so grateful to you.
I know you got something else you need to do, and so we'll be in touch, okay?
Okay, we will. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And would you do the honor of praying us out?
Oh, me? Yeah. Oh my goodness. It might not be what everybody wants.
It's okay.
Okay. Heavenly Father, please bless this channel and bless my beautiful guest and point her in the right direction where she needs to go. You have blessed her with such a beautiful life, and thank you, God, for saving her from cancer and giving her the experiences and the wisdom and the gifts that she has. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, dear. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay. All
Sending
right.
you love. Thank you. Okay,
Bye.
bye.